Good afternoon, everybody. Obviously, not the chipper start to the show that we usually have, but that is due to the tragedy that happened in Minneapolis earlier this morning. I'm sure all the other hosts and everybody all over the network has mentioned it. There was a mass shooting at a Catholic school in Minneapolis today at around little after 10 local time. Somebody came in to a Catholic school and shot a bunch of kids. Now we're going to get into all the details that we have, all the details that we know. So far, 2 kids have been confirmed dead. This is going to be breaking throughout the course of the day today. We'll bring you guys all the updates that we have at the moment. Local news in Minneapolis is reporting 2 children dead, 14 injured in Minneapolis. Here was Mayor Jacob Fry. Jacob Fry is I'm not a fan of his, but look, this is an emotional speech at an emotional time, and it's sad to see. Here was Mayor Fry.
Right in front of the microphone. Let's listen.
There are no words that can capture the horror and the evil of this unspeakable act. Children are dead. There are families that have a deceased child. You cannot put into words the gravity, the tragedy, or the absolute pain of this situation. We are a Minneapolis family. But to everybody out there, do not think of these as just somebody else's kids. Those families are suffering immense pain right now. Think of this as if it were your own. Every one of us needs to be wrapping our arms around these families, giving them every ounce that we can muster. These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance. These are the sort of basic assurances that every family should have, every step of the day, regardless of where they are in our country.
And look, obviously the mayor's upset. That would make total sense. Believe me, there's many things you could fault Jacob Fry on. I'm not going to fault him for being emotional in the moment. Obviously an incredibly tragic story. We're also, guys, keep it locked in here. We are expecting an update from local officials at 2:30 local time, 3:30 here on the East Coast. So we will bring you that as it comes in. The TikTok of the events were given out by the police chief of Hennepin County. Here that was.
My name is Brian O'Hara, B-R-I-A-N, O''H-A-R-A. I am the Minneapolis police chief. Earlier today, just before 8:30 a.m., our city experienced an unthinkable tragedy. Minneapolis police officers responded to a report of a shooting at a mass that was happening at the Annunciation Roman Catholic Church on the block behind me. This worship service was marking the first week of school for children that are attending the Annunciation Catholic School. During the Mass, a gunman approached on the outside, on the side of the building, and began firing a rifle through the church windows towards the children sitting in the pews at the Mass. Shooting through the windows, he struck children and worshipers that were inside the building. The shooter was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children is absolutely incomprehensible. Police officers from the Minneapolis Police Department immediately responded, entered the church, and attempted to provide first aid and rescue some of the children that were hiding throughout the building, while other first responders came and EMS responded to rush victims to nearby hospitals. 2 young children, ages 8 and 10, were killed where they sat in the pews. Their parents have been notified. 17 other people were injured, 14 of them being children. 2 of those children are in critical condition. The coward who fired these shots ultimately took his own life in the rear of the church. Our hearts are broken for the families who have lost their children, for these young lives that are now fighting to recover, and for our entire community that has been so deeply traumatized by this senseless attack. We will stand together to protect our children, our schools, and our houses of worship. This deliberate act of violence is just a sign of cruelty that is beyond comprehension. Our hearts are broken for everyone that's been affected by this tragedy. As we begin the difficult path of healing, I want the community to know this, that even in the face of such evil, the Minneapolis Police Department and all of our law enforcement partners stand with our community. We stand with these families and with this parish.
So that was the TikTok of the day's events. Look, we're going to get into some stuff here, and it's going to upset some people. And I'm going to do everything I can to I'm going to do everything I can. I do my best not to say shooters' names. I don't want to give them any more attention than I don't want to give them the attention that they seek. Sometimes it is unavoidable, but I'm going to do my best not to do that. We have to have a very serious discussion, and President Trump actually just had this discussion a couple minutes ago. We're getting reports here. This from Nick Sorter. President Trump. Oh, no. This is an opinion. President Trump should immediately sign an executive order directing federal agents to reclassify transgenderism as a mental illness. Because if that would have happened, this incident would not have happened. This happens far too often, and I'm sorry. This is not a trans thing. This is a reality thing. Because if this person had been diagnosed as mentally ill, which if you think you're in the wrong body, you have a mental illness, that's going to upset some people. And it shouldn't, because I hope if you are feeling that sort of way, you get whatever help is necessary to correct what is going on. But if society had accepted the fact that this person was mentally ill, they would never have been able to purchase the firearm in the first place. The weapons in my home are not hurting anyone. This tragedy wouldn't have happened. It couldn't have been stopped by what? Artificially making felons out of, I don't know, the 200 million gun owners in America? But this tragedy could have been stopped. Could have been stopped if we would just accept reality. We would just accept reality. And like I said, this is not a degradation of the people with this sort of mental illness. I want you to get help. I want you to feel better. I want you to cure whatever this is. But just sitting back and pretending like it's not happening, it's not helping anybody. It didn't help this shooter, and it damn sure didn't help these kids. It damn sure didn't help these kids. As a matter of fact, this story is horrific. A fifth grader is talking to the press about how one of his friends jumped on top of him and got shot in the process.
And then my friend, he was like laying on top of me, like making sure I was safe, and he got hit. So that was really brave of him.
And you have a neck on your neck?
Yeah, that was, I don't even know what it's from. Kind of looks like debris or something.
But that came from during this?
Yeah.
How are you feeling? You seem pretty put together here, but it's got to be tough.
Yeah, I'm just like confused.
I can't believe I even have to, like, that's one of the... I don't know if the kid that jumped on him was one of the ones who was killed or not, but this is a tragic story that just didn't have to happen. And like I said, the shooter, I want them to get the help that they need. I want them to get better. This is not like a you're denying humanity. No, you're denying reality. You're denying reality. And if we accepted reality as a culture, as a society, instead of demonizing people who live in the real world, I'm sorry, you're not born in the wrong body. That's bullshit. And society shouldn't have to change to fit your delusion. The Shooter's Manifesto has been released. I'm not going to read it. There was a suicide note. I'm not going to read that either. You guys can, I put it on my Twitter account. If you guys want to go look it up, go look it up. I'm not going to read it on here. I do my best not to not do that as often as possible. But look, it didn't stop every person on planet Earth from politicizing the event. Brian Krasenstein, who's one of the most disingenuous human beings on the internet, decided that he was going to go full bore and clickbait with dead kids on his mind. And many people are doing that on X right now, and those people ought to be ashamed of themselves. Those people ought to be ashamed of themselves. Leave it to CNN to go out of their way to say some of the stupidest things imaginable in the wake of this tragedy. Here was one idiot on CNN apparently claiming that if you pull the trigger of a gun, you can shoot a dozen rounds at one time.
A semi-automatic rifle, and it went on for several minutes.
Right, and look, that's not uncommon as well. These things can shoot dozens of bullets, in just one trigger pull, right? And so what happens in this case is sometimes they have enough time to reload. It's one of the most horrific things for students to be sitting there. You saw this in Uvalde, you see this in Newtown repeatedly, where a shooter has enough time to reload.
Actually, you don't see that because that's not how firearms work. But CNN goes out of their way. We got to push gun control. We got to politicize it. We got to go out of our way to make sure we drive the point home. We got to make sure we drive the point home over and over and over again. They weren't the only ones. They just happen to be the clip that I have. Of course, leave it to ABC, pushing gun control. I tell you what, ABC, give up the people who protect you, and then I'll give up my firearms.
And once again, here we are talking about access to guns. We still don't know how this gunman got access to these 3 different types of weapons, but we sure know state by state the laws are different. How these gunmen get these guns, they get them in various ways. They make them, they learn how to make them off the internet. So much to learn about this gunman.
Kira, what we see here is the country has this ongoing and continuous question. Now, in general, violence, gun violence and crime has been trending downward. But that's cold comfort to the people who are experiencing incidents like this. And what we do know is that no matter what the trend tends to be, this country has a violence and gun violence chronic issue that happens over and over. Whatever the data is, there are hundreds and thousands of people who are shot in this country. And the fact that they increasingly and routinely occur at churches, schools, movie theaters, malls, any place that is considered a soft target, that is where these troubled people go because they want to kill as many people as possible. And the question becomes, over and over again, exactly what is the nation and what are people prepared to do about it?
And let's not forget about the mental health crisis that this country faces as well.
Well, at least she said the MI phrase. Of course, nobody goes to malls anymore, but that guy's living in 1987. But yes, soft targets. Turns out if you want to commit violence with a gun, you go to a place where you know that nobody is going to have a gun. This is not hard. It's not hard. And I'm sorry, but taking away my rights is not going to make those people any safer. It's just not. It just isn't. And it's a shame because these things don't have to happen. They don't have to happen. And this instance didn't have to happen. If society would just accept reality. Just accept reality. Of course, the people who wear makeup on television, they'll never get rid of their armed security. Never, 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 never. They just want you to get rid of yours. The firearms in my home are never going to do anything like this. I know that for a fact. But when you let mental illness go untreated, these are the sorts of things that happen. This is an absolutely tragic day. Once again, we are awaiting a press conference at 2:30. It looks like it's going to be in about 10 minutes. Let's throw it live to Minneapolis on the ground to see all of if there's any updates so far.
I mean, just irritation that they're even here with their fifth grader in this scenario, and that time and time again where you hear about these types of situations, and they said it's frustrating that it seems like there's nothing done to adequately address some of the concerns that people have, and certainly parents have with their children in school. And and they said, yeah, I mean, Weston is very able and capable and willing to talk about his experience. And again, speaking to him, remarkable at the composure that he had, considering what he had to be processing about what he experienced and what he witnessed himself. Just remarkable.
Okay, Rob Wilson, we'll come back to you in just a little bit, but thank you for that update. And again, we'll have a news conference in about 10 minutes with police officials. But before that, we have an interview that we want to get to with St. Paul Police Chief Axel Henry to talk about just the law enforcement response.
Yeah, and I think he really wanted to assure citizens of St. Paul that they're doing everything they can as well to keep people safe. Let's listen in. Oh, he's live.
So Chief Henry, thank you so much for being with us right now. I can't imagine what's going through your mind, because I know that you all plan and train for incidents like this. So can you just tell us from a law enforcement perspective? I know MPD rushed in there to give first aid, to rescue kids who were hiding. What is going through the minds of law enforcement officials?
Well, first off, obviously our hearts go out to everybody that's been impacted by this, and it's literally the whole state. But obviously the direct victims, are at the forefront of our minds. Minneapolis did exactly what we train our officers to do as well. They pressed the problem. I think it's way too early to say this, but my guess is that if this person did indeed die from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, it was because they either heard or saw the police arriving so quickly and they stopped their behavior. We train to press the problem. We have great relationships with our school schools here in St. Paul. We train our officers how to respond to these types of calls, as well as we scout out these locations. And it's not just the schools, it's businesses, it's any collection point that a mass people are going to show up at or be in attendance to make sure that if we have something happening there where there's a bunch of people and they could be vulnerable to this kind of attack, that we scouted it out in advance. Our officers are familiar with the schools in their districts. They visit them. Our SWAT teams have trained in many, if not all of them. So they've been inside the hallways and they've been inside and found out the best ways to get in and out of those facilities. And so we're ready when these things happen.
Chief, what about the scope of what this does to parents and how I think most parents could get their heads around now in this day and age that my child needs to be kept safe in school, and they have drills to keep them safe, to help keep them safe. They have officers in schools to help keep them safe. This situation now expands that concern to, in this particular case, a nearby church. But the same could be said about any school campus. It could be the ball field. It could be, what do you say to parents who now have to deal with that sort of broadening of the scope of concern?
You know, it's almost unimaginable at this point. You know, I mean, the children in my life are all adults now because I'm old enough for that. But the grandkids are in the front of my mind right now, and you start to think about what it is that we can do to give you some assurance. I think we as a community have to come together at this point. One of the commonalities that you see in almost every one of these incidences across the country is that no one ever says we had no idea this person had a firearm. They know, and we as individuals have to be watching these things. I think the other thing is we cannot allow these people who perpetrate these acts to have their names and their identities be celebrated in any form or fashion. These are extremely cowardly and selfish actions. And I told someone earlier, you'll never hear me say this person's name out loud because, again, I understand the media has a responsibility to report the news, but I think too many of these people who commit these crimes are seeking the notoriety that comes with it. And I want to make sure that we're doing everything as a community to make sure that we aren't doing anything to encourage or endorse that.
Yeah.
And sort of on that note, too, Chief Henry, there is so much chatter online and through social media. It's hard to cut through all of the negative stuff that is out there, but we talk about hear something, say something. What message would you give to the public, too, about any potential warning sign?
Well, I think that's spot on. Listen, we'd rather go check something out and have it turn out to be a molehill. I think people want to wait too long, and they say they don't want to bring any attention to something that turned out to be wrong. I think we have to kind of push that instinct down and say, listen, in the environment we live in today, we want to make sure that we're reporting things. And if it turns out that someone makes a report against me, I should be more understanding of that and say, well, listen, I'm glad I have a neighbor that was that concerned. And it turns out that it was nothing or was a mistake, but we need to be more on top of that as a community, and we need to come together. I think this is, an issue that doesn't need to be partisan in any way. And I think we all care about having safe kids and safe collection places for folks and safe events. And we can do that if we come together as a community.
And that raises a different point. This happened in Minneapolis. You're in St. Paul. You're in charge of that police department. Post an incident like this, something gets learned by everyone. Do you coordinate with Minneapolis? I'm assuming you do to talk about what happened, how it happened, what can be learned from that.
And we will. There'll be obviously we'll do an autopsy on this event from a response standpoint when it's over. But the chief and I were talking as early as this morning. I was offering resources. We have folks over there right now that are working covering calls in the city. He would do the same for us, and so would any other law enforcement agency in this area. We all going to learn from this. Sometimes I don't mean to trivialize it, but it's not unlike a professional sports team. We're going to be watching the game film on this after the fact and figure out what worked, what didn't, how can we be better prepared. And again, prevention's the gold medal, so that's what we're always looking to do, is prevent the next event. But we work together to figure those things out.
All right, Chief Henry from St. Paul Police, thank you so much for joining us. We know these agencies in the metro work together so well. We know multiple agencies help to respond.
So that was the chief of police in St. Paul. We're going to bring you guys the live press conference when it occurs. It should be coming in the next couple of minutes. It's scheduled for 2:30 local, 3:30 Eastern here on the East Coast. Before we get to that, guys, a quick word from Old Glory Bank.
When big banks decide who gets access to America's financial systems and who doesn't, who do you think gets left out? middle Americans who proudly wave their pro-America values. Cancel culture in banking is corrosive. It limits your participation in a vibrant, free market economy. Fortunately, you can fight back. You now have the opportunity to invest in the bank that's investing in a fair American banking system, one based in freedom. Ownership in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank, is here. Old Glory Bank is a full-service FDIC-insured bank that's the alternative to overreaching, un-American big banks. We stand for privacy, security, and liberty. We stand for freedom, family, faith, and the flag. We stand for all the values you stand for, and for the values big banks can't stand. So help keep banking in the hands of Main Street, not Wall Street. To invest in Old Glory Bank, go to oldglorybank.com.
Guys, head on over to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. Check out I would say check out their CDs now. Locking those interest rates before they go down, guys. Head on over to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. Once again, we are awaiting the press conference from local officials, which should be happening any moment now. I hate this. You build, there's so much news I do want to talk about, so much stuff that I'd rather be talking about. Believe me, I have funny ass clips making fun of the Fed governor who got fired. There's so much more I would much rather be talking about than talking about this, but unfortunately, this is the news of the day. I'd much rather be making fun of Tiffany Cross on CNN for yelling racism at the top of her lungs, or the fact that, I don't know, Kathy Hochul can hear Elise Stefanik's footsteps coming behind her, but all of that seems pretty trivial on a day where a bunch of kids got shot in a church, and idiots online are profiting off exploiting the tragedy. It's a terrible thing. Terrible thing, guys. Before we keep rocking and rolling here, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place, as we're going to bring you guys all of the updates of the day, all the updates when they come in from Minneapolis police. Once again, the updates: 2 kids have been killed. I believe it was 14. 14 is the official number. I'm sure we'll get an updated number from local officials when that press conference begins. Make sure you guys are hitting the follow button for all the updates throughout the day. Another tragic incident that just didn't have to happen. As I said, it all seems kind of trivial at the moment, but believe me, I could read the manifesto. I could read the suicide note and show you the pictures. I'm not going to do that. I don't think that's helpful. There's multiple studies out there that show that, the more press attention the people who commit these awful crimes get, the more frequently they happen. So I'm going to do everything I possibly can not to do that. It's sad to see. We got to figure something out. Something's missing. Something's missing in this culture, because there's always been guns, but there hasn't always been school shootings. What that is, I don't know. I'm sure people a lot smarter than me will be able to come up with an answer to that question. Once again, we are awaiting. Here is Kesh Patel. Kesh Patel with an update. In Minneapolis, the FBI is investigating the shooting as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. There were 2 fatalities, an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. We know that. In addition, 14 children and 3 adults were injured. The shooter has been identified. Don't say that. FBI will continue to provide updates on this situation. That's coming from Kesh Patel right now from the FBI. Let's see. What do they have here?
Right now, we are keeping an eye on it for you. Obviously, we'll take it as soon as it does get going. In the meantime, let's go back out to more coverage of Fox 9 Minneapolis.
For so many people, we don't know of any, or we haven't been told of any threats that were made against this school, made against this church. We do know that the gunman apparently did live nearby and that his mother had retired from this school, and that the gunman had undergone a name change about 6 years ago from Robert to Robin.
It's possible that the FBI has come up with something through an online scrub or whatever that they now, FBI Director Kash Patel is investigating this, as I said a moment ago, as an act of terrorism directed as a hate crime toward Catholics or Catholicism in general. So that is the FBI's perspective on this. We don't know exactly what directed them to move in that area, but that's certainly where they're looking at it, and it certainly is a terrific act of violence and terrorism from its outward appearance as of this hour anyway.
We know that the gunfire came from outside the church and through the windows, but we know from listening to some of the children that talked to our reporters that they did see the gunman. They knew that he was dressed in all black. Little Weston, who's just 10 years old, saying all black, and that he also, one of his friends said that he was wearing a ski mask. We don't have that part confirmed, but we do know that he was dressed in all black clothing, and that then he apparently died by suicide at the back of the church outside. And beyond that, we don't know any other connections, any other threats that were apparently made to any other people from this particular gunman.
Catholic Church, as we said before, Archbishop of St. Paul, Minneapolis, Bernard Hebda, he also thanked Pope Leo for his comments and prayers, but he said, this is Hebda again, my heart is broken as I think about students, teachers, and clergy and parishioners and the horror they witnessed in a church, a place where we should feel safe. And the Archbishop went on to say in a statement, the staff of the Archdiocese are providing support to the parish and the school. He went on to say we need to end gun violence. Our community is rightfully, hang on one second, outraged at such horrific acts of violence perpetrated against the vulnerable and the innocent. Again, those comments coming from the Archbishop of St. Paul, Minneapolis, Bernard Hebda.
And the fact that this happened during a morning mass at the beginning of the school day, too, the children start their day, and you know, Mass is filled with music. It's filled with peace and quiet and peaceful messages. And as we're hearing and seeing from a lot of parents and people in the community, it's just such a shock. And you hear it all the time that nobody expects this to happen because we want to feel like we live in safe communities. But that is certainly the message that just a situation of just complete shock.
I want to give you an update again on the victims, other than the two young children that were killed, again, their ages, and this is the heartbreaking part of all of this. This school is pre-K through 8th grade, and the two children that we know died right there in the church were ages 8 and 10. As we've said before, there were 17 other individuals injured in that church as well. 14 of those were children. As of last report, 7 of those who are still hospitalized or injured are in critical condition, and that is 1 adult and 6 children. And when they list them as critical, that could be based on a lot of things, but I do know that these are horrific injuries that can be suffered in situations like this. And we know that at one point, at the same time, there were 4 children in surgery. Yes. We have not received an update from either HCMC or Children's Minnesota in the last couple hours, so we're hoping for the best as those victims work their way through the injuries that they suffered.
We do believe that police were there within minutes, though, and EMS to provide immediate medical care and to get to those children as quickly as possible. These types of surgeries can take so much time, so it may be quite some time before we get any information about those who are injured and how they're doing, other than those who are dealing with non-life-threatening injuries. So again, we will take this news conference as soon as it begins. This impacting the state of Minnesota, the city of Minneapolis, the entire country right now, federal, state, local officials, all involved in the process as they dissect and try to figure out who this gunman is.
Coverage continues from Minneapolis. When we come back, we are awaiting any moment right now a news conference scheduled by police and officials out in Minneapolis for the latest.
So we will bring you the press conference as it happens. Local media is breaking away. Gotta get it in commercial breaks. You know, unfortunately, that's just part of the game. Jimmy Draw in my Rumble chat. I don't know who you are. Apparently, you've blamed every single thing on planet Earth, from Mossad to fluoride. So maybe, switch to decaf. Just a thought. Just a thought. Guys, before we keep rocking, before we keep rolling here, I hate that I even have to do this. Head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. That is the best way to support this show and everything we've got going on over here. You guys can use promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. You guys use promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Obviously, we are monitoring the situation in Minneapolis. It's just sad to see. Sad to see things didn't have to happen. That did. Once again, we found out that the shooter's mother worked at this school, which, somehow could make the situation even worse. We've got this reporting from the Post Millennial. There were multiple photographs. I'll see if I can get these up without showing the shooter's name. There was some really weird stuff. Look, every person in the world is going to try to blame every single thing on this. Obviously, this person was completely deranged. The alleged shooter, and they used every kind of ideology under the damn sun. So for the people out there blaming the Jews, maybe relax. For the people out there blaming some sort of, mind control thing or chemtrails or I don't know what the hell, everybody out there seems to know exactly how to fix this, and nobody does. The alleged shooter on Wednesday's deadly attack at the Catholic Church and school at the Catholic school in Minneapolis was identified. Nope, not saying it. Appears to have posted a chilling video on YouTube before the massacre that makes several pop culture references as well as references to other shooters. In the footage, the shooter can be seen displaying multiple firearms and ammunition magazines, as well as a target board with an image of Jesus Christ taped to it. This message is brought to you by BlackRock, ExxonMobil, and sponsored by Pabst Blue Ribbon. The shooter said at the top of the video, which is circulating online, police have confirmed that at least 2 kids, we know that. The shooter's weapons were covered in handwritten messages, taunts, and extremist references and tributes to other mass shooters. Apparently, a lot of the writing was in some kind of different language. They said, I am Columbine. They're saying, I am a terrorist. Some of the writing said, why so queerious? Which, of course, is the line that the Joker used in The Dark Knight. There was a biblical taunt that said, where is God now? There was references to James Holmes, who was the Dark Knight shooter, Adam Lanza, who was Sandy Hook. I don't even want to say some of these people's names. The shooting at the Texas Tower in '66. Yonders Breivik, who carried out the most deadly shooting in the history of Norway. Actually, the deadliest mass shooting in European history. The Tree of Life shooter, and Ted Kaczynski for some reason. That one doesn't really seem to match. Apparently, they said it's sponsored by BlackRock. I don't know what the hell I don't know what that means. Israel must fall. Every single ideology seems to be representative. 6 million wasn't enough, which was obviously we know what the hell that means. It is like I said, everybody's gonna try to. This is gonna be like a Christmas tree, unfortunately. Every single person is gonna try to hang their ornaments on this and blame who they want. We have a problem. And any person who thinks that we don't have a problem is pretty delusional. It's pretty delusional. Here we have Senator Amy Klobuchar, who is on scene right now. You can see her there in the blue outfit. Once again, we're awaiting the press conference, which is about 15 minutes late. It looks like they're gearing up for that, just waiting for the local officials to get there. Jacob Fry is also on scene. He is the mayor of Minneapolis. This seems to be some kind of a suburb of Minneapolis. Sad to see. Sad to see. There's just, I don't know what. Alrighty, it looks like they are. Looks like they're gearing up. Yeah. Here, we're going to throw it live.
Mayor Fry
Right, and our big thanks to Fox 9 Minneapolis for their continuing coverage. Right now, we want to take you out in full to Minneapolis so that we will be able to show you this news conference from the beginning all the way until the end. You see Mayor Fry there, as well as Governor Walz, Senator Klobuchar will be speaking at this news conference, as well as the police chief. And there's a hug right there from Mayor Fry to Governor Walz just moments ago, as so many people, not only officials, but the community right now reeling of this very, very sad situation and senseless shooting that happened at the Annunciation School. 2 children have been killed, 17 others hurt, and now we will be getting the fresh update from officials on this dark day in Minneapolis as the governor comes, as well as the officials. Right now, we are going to be listening in for the latest updates right here on Live Now from Fox.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Certainly a day and a news conference that no one wants to be at. A community behind us, Annunciation Church and School, committed to academics, service, and Catholic values, filled with the first days of school of beautiful children going to learn those values, share with their teachers and their classmates. And instead of that joy and that curiosity and that learning, they were met with evil and horror and death. And we often come to these and say, these unspeakable tragedies, or there's no words for this. There shouldn't be words for these types of incidents because they should not happen. And there's no words that are going to ease the pain of the families today. On behalf of all the people of Minnesota, our deepest sympathies. A wish that any of these words would make what you're feeling now better, but it won't. A place that's founded on community, founded on service, founded on family. I'd like to give special thank you to the mayor and the team in Minneapolis, Minneapolis Police Department, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, Minnesota State Patrol, the BCA, so many agencies, our federal partners in the FBI, the first responders, and the heroic work that's happening now as we speak at multiple medical locations, including Hennepin County Medical Center, where most of our children were transported to receive the life-saving care. The thoughts and prayers and the hopes and the support that we need to give them in this moment, too, is critical. Speaking with all the people here and grateful to our federal partners, Senator Klobuchar speaking early this morning and receiving a call from from President Trump, who was with his leadership team of the Attorney General and the Vice President, expressing their deep condolences amongst the horror that happened and an offer to provide the support to the folks here in Minnesota of what's needed. So there's a lot of cameras here, and unfortunately, we've been through these types of things. They will be gone at some point. All of you, you have to do your jobs. But what happened here today will not be gone. Minnesotans will not step away. We'll stand with this community. We'll redouble ourselves to do the best we can to understand what we can do to prevent any parent from having to receive the calls they received today, from any school dedicated to children having to respond to a situation that, as we said, is unthinkable, but that's all too common, not just in Minnesota, but across this country. It's Minnesota's day today, and it's my strongest desire that no state, no community, no school ever experiences a day like this. So I ask the rest of the folks around the country who are watching, keep us in your thoughts and prayers, but also keep us in the thoughts for action. Keep us in the ideas that we can work together. And it's on these days like this, I think, and I hope we can hold on to it. We are unified as a community. Everybody across the country today is part of the Annunciation Parish, and they're with those families. With that, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry.
Thank you, Governor. Throughout the morning, we have seen this extraordinary Minneapolis family step up in thousands of different ways. People with strength, resilience, compassion, and love for the families that have been forever impacted by this heinous act. We want to make sure that we're doing everything possible for them right now, and I want to give a special thank you, and we are so grateful to all of the faculty and the teachers at Annunciation. The way that they acted during severe threat and danger was nothing short of heroic. This is a tragic and horrible event that should never occur, and it would have been all the more tragic and horrible had they not stepped in, at times perhaps put themselves in danger to protect others. As horrible as this has been, it could have been far worse. I'm grateful for our law enforcement partners, our police officers in the Minneapolis Police Department and other law enforcement agencies well beyond that step up, that answered the call to make sure that they were running towards danger when so many of the rest of us would have run in the other direction. Thank you. We are so appreciative of your service. To Principal DeBoer and your whole team, the ethic that you have showed, the love that you've shown, it's flat out incredible. And at the same time, look, we need to be doing more than talking. It can't just be words. There needs to be action. And when we have seen school shooting after school shooting, when we have seen churches get shot up by horrible actors, I think the impetus has to be on all of us as leaders to do a whole lot more, to recognize that we've got more guns in this country than we have people. And it's on all of us to recognize the truth and the reality that we can't just say that this shouldn't happen again and then allow it to happen again and again beyond that. It's on all of us. And I have heard about a whole lot of hate that's being directed at our trans community. Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity. We should not be operating out of a place of hate for anyone.
Yeah, we shouldn't be operating from a place of hate unless, it's gun owners.
Kids died today. This needs to be about them. This needs to be wrapping our arms around these families with every bit of love that we can possibly show. And I know that our Minneapolis family and well beyond is prepared to do exactly that. And so my message to everyone out there is, again, these families are experiencing some acute pain right now. But don't just think of these as somebody else's kids. Think of your own. Let's make sure that we're acting now to not just say it's never happening again, but ensure it doesn't. Our chief of police has been working tirelessly throughout the day, along with, again, a number of different law enforcement agencies, investigators, federal partners, state partners. Thank you, Senator Klobuchar, for being here. Been working tirelessly, and I'd like to invite him up to give some more of the details that have come up. Chief.
My name is Brian O'Hara, B-R-I-A-N, O''H-A-R-A. I am the Minneapolis Police Chief. Good afternoon, and thank you all for your patience as we continue to gather the facts in this investigation into this truly unthinkable tragedy that happened here earlier today. I want to make sure that we are providing the most accurate information possible, particularly as we speak around our victims. At this point, we know we have a total of 19 victims from this tragedy. 2 were young children, ages 8 and 10, that were sitting in the pews at Mass when they were shot and killed. They were pronounced deceased on the scene. There were another 14 children between the ages of 6 and 15 that were injured by gunfire. There were also 3 adults in their 80s that were parishioners here attending Mass that were also shot in this incident. The families of all of the children that have been affected have been notified. The coward that shot these victims took his own life in the rear of the church. That coward has been identified as 23-year-old Robin Westman. No prior criminal history. As to the weapons used to perpetrate this horrific attack, there was a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. All 3 had been lawfully purchased by the shooter. At this,
which wouldn't have been able to happen if the person had been diagnosed as mentally ill, which they very clearly were.
Carrying out this attack. Our investigators are working with other agencies in the process of executing 4 search warrants. 1 is for the church itself, where this crime occurred. The other 3 are residences nearby in the metro that are related to this shooter. Additional firearms are being recovered from those 3 residential locations as we speak. We are also aware of a manifesto that the shooter had timed to be released on YouTube. This manifesto appeared to show him at the scene and included some disturbing writings. That content has since been taken down with the assistance of the FBI, and it now remains under active review by our investigators. We know this community is reeling and is in pain. I want to ensure everyone in our community, this parish, all of the families affected, and all of our residents, that all of law enforcement collectively, local law enforcement, our county, our state, and all of our federal law enforcement partners have been here, and we are all working tirelessly to uncover the full scope of what happened, to try and identify a motive why it happened, and whether there are any other further details. We will continue to share updates as the investigation progresses, and we remain committed to being as transparent as possible while protecting the integrity of this investigation. In a moment, I will take some questions that I am able to answer, but first I want to bring up the principal of Annunciation School, Matt Du Bois, as well as, after him, the Archbishop, our Archbishop Bernard Hebda. So, Principal.
Good afternoon, everyone. To any of our students and families and staff watching right now, I love you. You're so brave, and I'm so sorry this happened to us today. Within seconds of this situation beginning, our teachers were heroes. Children were ducked down. Adults were protecting children. Older children were protecting younger children. And as we heard earlier, it could have been significantly worse without their heroic action. This is a nightmare, but we call our staff the dream team. And we will recover from this. We will rebuild from this. When we planned for this school year, we intentionally chose a theme from the prophet Jeremiah chapter 29, a future filled with hope. There's nothing about today that can fill us with hope. We, as a community, have a responsibility to make sure that no child, no parent, no teacher ever has to experience what we've experienced today, ever again. I need everybody to commit those words to your speech patterns, never again. We lost 2 angels today. And please continue to pray for those still receiving care. We can't change the past, but we can do something about the future. There's an African proverb that says, when you pray, move your feet. So I beg you, I ask you to please pray, but don't stop with your words. Let's make a difference and support this community, these children, these families, these teachers. Never again can we let this happen. I love you, Annunciation family. We're with you, and we will be stronger when this is done. Archbishop Hebda will be coming next.
Thank you, Principal DeBoer. I'm so grateful that Mayor Fry and the chief both mentioned how valiant you and your staff were. I'm so grateful to the pastor here at Annunciation, Father Dennis Zarin, for the deacon, Deacon Kevin Keneally, also were heroic in this time. But how sad it is, for sure, not only for the families who are directly involved, but indeed for families everywhere who feel the threat that comes from an event, a tragedy like today's. I would never want to correct a principal, but Principal DeBoer said it wasn't so clear where would be the source of hope. And brothers and sisters, we have to be men and women of hope. Already today, I've been receiving messages from all over our country promising prayers. And I think it's the prayers of the feet as well, Principal. That is it for me.
Guys, it's 4 o'clock. It's 4 o'clock. We're going to keep... I'm sure there'll be updates on this throughout the day across all of the networks. But make sure you keep it locked in here, rumble.com/LFATV. Pray for the victims, pray for the families. Pete Santilli is coming up next. Make sure you guys keep it locked right in here throughout the day. Until tomorrow, everybody. Hopefully we get to have some fun tomorrow. Hopefully we get to have some more fun tomorrow. Because you guys know I would much rather be having fun than covering stuff like this. But until tomorrow, everybody, stay loud.